Okay, let's unpack this. Today, we're taking a deep dive into a figure who, well, he consistently dominates headlines and sparks some pretty intense debate. Elon Musk.
He certainly does.
We're going to try and push past the surface narratives,
Yeah.
get into what truly drives him. And to do that, we're drawing from an incredible stack of sources, mainly focusing on excerpts from Ashlee Vance's really insightful biography, Elon Musk, visionary disruptor and future architect.
That's right. And our mission today, I think, is to go beyond just what he's built, the rockets, the electric cars, and really try to understand the why and the how behind it all.
Yeah, that's the key.
We'll explore that relentless force that seems to fuel him, his often unconventional approach to business, and his incredibly ambitious vision for, well, the very future of humanity.
So let's maybe kick things off at the beginning. Before all the rockets and the EVs, what were the maybe surprising origins that shaped this relentless drive we see in him now? Definitely not your typical Silicon Valley success story, is it?
No, not at all. His early years back in South Africa were profoundly challenging, actually, and they really laid the groundwork for his resilience later on.
How so?
Well, he faced just relentless bullying at school, apparently, and navigated a really complex relationship with his father. Those experiences, well, they no doubt contributed to his incredible tenacity later in life.
Mm-hmm.
But what's fascinating, I think, is that as a child, Musk was just this voracious reader. He almost retreated into his own world of thought, developing this remarkable ability to absorb and retain huge amounts of information.
Right, like a sponge, just soaking it all in from a young age.
Yeah.
Did we see any early inklings of the innovator he'd become? Any signs?
Oh, absolutely. Alongside that intellectual curiosity, he showed this undeniable entrepreneurial spirit and a deep technical drive. Even from a young age, he was selling things like video games he developed himself.
Wow.
And even small sort of experimental chemical mixtures he was messing around with.
Really?
Yeah, these weren't just kids' games, right? They were early proof of his hands-on approach, this need to understand fundamental principles, his insatiable curiosity, and definitely some nascent business sense.
Mm-hmm.
And that drive, that urge to seek out bigger opportunities, that's ultimately what led him to leave South Africa when he was just 17. He made his way to Canada first, and then eventually pursued a path to the United States.
So from those quite unconventional beginnings, he eventually moves on to disrupting these massive established industries that seemed almost, well, unshakable.
Mm-hmm.
How did he even begin to challenge the status quo in fields like aerospace and automotive? It just feels almost impossible looking from the outside.
Well, okay, let's start with SpaceX. What's so revolutionary here is how he completely upended an industry that was, dominated by government contractors and these deeply entrenched players.
Right, the old guard.
Exact. Musk's core strategy was a radical vertical integration. Instead of outsourcing or just assembling existing parts like everyone else did,
He decided to do it himself.
pretty much, he decided to build as much as possible in-house. I mean, from the rocket engines themselves to the complex software that runs them.
That's huge.
It is. And this approach, it allowed for incredibly rapid iteration and, crucially, massive cost reductions, savings that simply weren't possible for the incumbents who operated under, totally different paradigms.
So he wasn't just tweaking things. He was fundamentally rethinking the entire process, the supply chain, everything.
Yeah.
What were some of the tangible results of that approach? What did we actually see happen?
Exactly. They introduced just groundbreaking techniques. Think about reusable rockets that alone dramatically lowered launch costs.
Game changer.
Total game changer. Plus, modern manufacturing methods and a completely software-driven approach to designing and operating the rockets. Their achievements, they speak for themselves, right?
Yeah.
SpaceX was the first privately funded company to launch a liquid-fueled rocket to orbit that was the Falcon 1. They were also the first private company to successfully launch, orbit, and recover a spacecraft with Dragon.
And get to the ISS, too.
And then, yes, the first private company to send a spacecraft to the International Space Station. This didn't just, rattle the established players. It forced them to innovate.
They had to react.
They had to.
Yeah.
And maybe more importantly, it sort of rekindled public interest in space exploration itself. It made space exciting again,
Yeah, absolutely. That impact on aerospace is just undeniable. But now let's pivot a bit to Tesla. Automotive, that's an industry with over a century of ingrained tradition, right? How did he apply that same disruptive thinking to something as fundamental as the car and convince people that electric was the future, not just some weird niche? What was the initial play there?
Right. Tesla's approach was, well, equally bold, but maybe in a different way. Instead of marketing electric cars as just, utilitarian alternatives, kind of like glorified golf
Which
carts.
is how many people saw them back then.
Exactly. They focused on high performance and luxury. The goal was to fundamentally change perceptions of what an electric vehicle could be something desirable, exciting.
Sexy.
Yeah, absolutely. Not just sensible. And then they bypassed traditional dealerships completely with a direct sales model. That was pretty revolutionary for the car industry at the time.
Hugely controversial, too, I bet.
Oh, yeah. And critically, they pioneered over-the-air software updates. I mean, think about that your car could continually improve and gain new features after you bought it.
That's a concept we just take for granted now with our phones, right? But for a car back then, it was unheard of.
Totally unheard of. Then they also tackled range anxiety head-on by developing the supercharger network. That was a huge psychological barrier for EV adoption.
Right, the where do I charge question.
Precisely. And just like SpaceX, Tesla embraced significant vertical integration. This let them control quality and innovate really rapidly, pushing boundaries in battery tech, motor efficiency, and eventually autonomous driving features much faster than anyone else.
So what were some of those key innovations that really set them apart?
Well, you've got the long-range EVs with genuinely impressive performance, that massive touchscreen interface that controlled almost everything in the car.
Still hallmark.
Definitely. Then autopilot, the self-driving technology, which is still evolving and debated, of course, and the gigafactory concept, building batteries at an unprecedented scale, they truly redefined what a car could be, really from the ground up.
It's clear these are just massive, incredibly ambitious ventures on their own. But when you look at SpaceX and Tesla, and then you throw Solar City into the mix, it might seem a bit disparate at first glance. So how do all these pieces actually connect? Is there a grand, unified vision here, or is it just a collection of separate businesses?
That's a great question. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, Solar City actually kind of completes Musk's renewable energy ecosystem. It was founded by his cousins, yes, but with his support and vision. And it really complements Tesla's mission by providing the solar power solutions. It creates this holistic approach to sustainability. You've got the solar panels generating clean electricity.
From Solar City.
Right. Then the Tesla Powerwall batteries storing that energy. And finally, the Tesla cars using that stored energy for transportation. It's a loop.
So what you're describing isn't just like a portfolio of companies. It's more like a truly integrated, almost self-sustaining loop for humanity's energy needs. That's a powerful integration.
It really is. And Solar City itself was disruptive in its own right. They offered leases to make solar panels more affordable for homeowners. They provided end-to-end service design, installation, the whole thing. And they vertically integrated by manufacturing their own high-efficiency solar cells.
Wow.
So yeah, the combination of Solar City, Tesla, and SpaceX really forms this comprehensive vision for a sustainable future across energy production, storage, and consumption.
That's a fascinating overarching theme. So what's the common thread then? The shared goal that ties all these seemingly different companies together, rockets, cars, solar panels. What's the link?
Well, despite operating in vastly different industries, all of Musk's major companies share a single overarching goal, essentially ensuring a sustainable future for humanity.
Okay.
So SpaceX is focused on making humans a multiplanetary species, right?
Yep.
As a backup plan, basically.
Or that the lifeboat.
Kind of, yeah. Tesla's mission is explicitly to accelerate the world's transition to sustainable energy. And Solar City, before it was fully absorbed by Tesla, aimed to make clean solar energy widely available. They're all pieces of the same puzzle, working towards what he sees as humanity's ultimate long-term survival.
And there are actual tangible synergies between them too, right? It's not just a philosophical connection. They actively leverage each other's tech.
Oh, absolutely. You see Tesla batteries being used in SpaceX rockets and, of course, in the energy storage solutions, the Powerwalls.
Right.
SpaceX's expertise in advanced materials and advanced manufacturing techniques often directly benefits Tesla's car production lines. And they learn things building rockets that help build cars better or cheaper. And Solar City, well, it provided the solar panels that power many of Tesla's supercharger stations. So this unified vision allows him to tackle these really complex, interconnected problems that, frankly, traditional single-focus companies just wouldn't be structured to address.
This all sounds incredibly visionary, almost like, I don't know, a sci-fi novel playing out in real time. How does he actually do this? What's his core method for problem solving? How does he break down these unbelievably complex, often seemingly intractable challenges to find such radical solutions?
Yeah, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? Or maybe billion-dollar question.
Early trillion, yeah.
Yeah, maybe. His success really seems to stem from what he calls first principles thinking. Now, this isn't just about breaking down problems. It's about stripping away every assumption, well, that's how it's always been done kind of mentality.
Well, explain that a bit more.
So imagine trying to build a rocket. Instead of asking, how can we make current rockets maybe 10% cheaper? Musk asked, essentially, what are the absolute fundamental components needed to get something into orbit? What are they made of? What do those raw materials cost on the open market? And how cheaply can those raw materials be acquired and assembled from scratch?
So boiling it down to the absolute physics and economics, ignoring how others built rockets before, asking what are the absolute undeniable facts here, regardless of existing methods.
Precisely. And this method, this thinking, has been applied across aerospace, automotive, and energy. It's what enabled him to truly disrupt them by challenging literally every single assumption.
Do you give another example?
Sure, take batteries. He realized, or his team did, that the raw materials for batteries, lithium, nickel, cobalt, etc., were actually relatively inexpensive if you bought them on the commodity markets. The processed battery cells were expensive.
Ah, so the value add was the expensive part.
Right. And that realization directly led to the whole gigafactory concept. Let's bring the manufacturing in-house, do it at massive scale, and drive down the cost by controlling the process from the raw materials up.
Makes sense.
Same with rockets, breaking down components to find dramatic cost-saving opportunities. And approaching car design not like a traditional car manufacturer would, but thinking of it as a sophisticated computer on wheels first. That's first principles thinking in action, seeing possibilities that others miss because they're kind of stuck in the old paradigms.
Okay, now let's maybe shift focus a little to the man behind this incredible vision.
Yeah.
What's his leadership style actually like? We hear stories, of course, and what keeps him going through the immense, often brutal challenges his companies have clearly faced.
Yeah, his leadership style is notoriously demanding, intense. It's often been described as, well, brutal but effective.
Mm-hmm.
Ashlee Vance quotes a former employee, I think, saying something like, Elon doesn't know about you and he hasn't thought through whether or not something is going to hurt your feelings. He just knows what the fuck he wants done.
Wow. That's blunt. He just knows what he wants done. That's a brutally honest assessment. It sounds like an incredibly demanding, maybe even punishing environment. How does anyone thrive in that or even, survive it?
It is incredibly tough, by all accounts. Yet what's fascinating is that while some people certainly burn out or don't last, others are fiercely loyal. They seem driven by the sheer audacity of the mission itself.
The changing the world aspect.
Exactly. They feel like they're not just building cars or rockets, they're genuinely building the future. And that shared purpose often seems to outweigh the intense pressure for many. His style is really characterized by setting these seemingly impossible goals, getting deeply hands-on, involved in the technical details.
He's down in the weeds.
Very much so, apparently. Plus, rapid decision-making, a strong emphasis on those first principles we talked about, and very, very little tolerance for bureaucracy or perceived inefficiency.
And it certainly hasn't been a smooth ride, has it? His companies have faced what you rightly called near-death experiences earlier. Can you walk us through some of the existential threats they had to overcome? It really sounds like they teetered on the brink multiple times.
Oh, absolutely. It's easy now to look at the successful rockets landing and the millions of Teslas on the road and forget the sheer terror of how many times these ventures stared right into the abyss.
Yeah.
SpaceX, for example, nearly bled dry. I mean, they were apparently just moments away from running out of money before their first ever successful launch of the Falcon 1 after multiple failures. It was down to the last bit of capital.
Wow, the pressure.
Immense. And Tesla, not just once, but arguably twice, teetered right on the brink of bankruptcy. First, during the 2008 financial crash, which hit them hard.
Right when they were starting out.
Exactly. And then later, during the grueling production hell phase of ramping up the Model 3, there are stories of him literally sleeping on the factory floor. These weren't just, little bumps in the road. These were genuine existential crises where failure was a hair's breadth away.
And beyond just the financial cliff edge, they faced pretty significant technical setbacks too, didn't they?
Yes.
Rockets exploding, cars having issues. That must have been soul-crushing.
Oh, absolutely. SpaceX had multiple very public rocket explosions and launch failures in its early days. That's devastating for morale, not to mention the finances.
Yeah.
Tesla faced production delays, battery fires early on, and of course the ongoing scrutiny and challenges around autopilot accidents. But I think a consistent theme throughout all of this is Musk's sheer persistence, his almost unbelievable willingness to bet everything again and again,
All in.
all in, and his ability to somehow inspire his teams to push through the absolute hardest moments. That's been crucial in overcoming these challenges. They've often emerged stronger, actually, using the setbacks as sort of brutal but effective learning opportunities to innovate and improve.
So given this intense drive, these incredible, almost unbelievable feats, and surviving those near failures, what does this all culminate in for his ultimate goal, his perhaps most audacious ambition? What's the long-term play here, the final frontier for him?
His ultimate long-term vision for humanity, the one that seems to drive everything else fundamentally, is to make us a multiplanetary species.
Right.
He famously said, "I would like to die on Mars, just not on impact."
He did say that, yes.
And this isn't just, a throwaway line or a fantasy. It seems to be a deeply strategic goal rooted in his genuine concerns for humanity's long-term survival. What if something catastrophic happens to Earth?
The backup plan again.
Exactly. His plan involves establishing a self-sustaining city on Mars, which is just mind-boggling. But it means developing fully reusable rockets, like Starship, to drastically reduce launch costs, creating robust life support systems for long-duration space travel, and somehow establishing the basic infrastructure needed for a Martian colony.
And Mars is just the first step in that vision, not the end goal.
That seems to be right. While Mars is the initial major focus, he clearly sees it as a stepping stone. The goal is further space exploration and potentially colonization, looking at other planets, maybe moons within our solar system, and even developing technologies for interstellar travel in the, very distant future.
Wow.
And this grand, almost impossible-sounding vision, it actually serves as the driving force behind SpaceX's more immediate business. Those commercial satellite launches, the government contracts for NASA.
They pay the bills.
They pay the bills, and they fund the development of the very technologies needed for those future Mars missions. It's an ingenious, if incredibly ambitious, way to finance his ultimate dream.
So, stepping back a bit now, beyond his specific companies and his personal ambitions, what's Elon Musk's wider influence been on the tech industry, on innovation, maybe even on the world as a whole? How has he shifted the landscape?
Well, Musk has undeniably inspired, I think, a whole new generation of entrepreneurs, and he's fundamentally challenged established industries in a way few others have.
How so?
He seems to have renewed interest in tackling what people sometimes call hard technology problems, physical products, manufacturing, core engineering challenges, as opposed to maybe just software-only startups, which were dominant for a while.
Right, building actual stuff.
Exactly, building atoms, not just bits. There's also clearly been an increased focus on sustainability and clean energy within the tech sector, partly thanks to Tesla's success. And as we discussed, a palpable revival of public and private interest in space exploration and all the related technologies. He's kind of made it cool again to build things that are physically complex and ambitious.
And it seems like he's kicked the old guard into gear too, maybe almost unwillingly sometimes.
He certainly has. I mean, his companies have forced traditional players in aerospace, automotive, and energy to innovate and adapt at a pace they probably never anticipated or wanted.
You see it happening.
You really do. Major automakers are now scrambling, accelerating their electric vehicle programs. Aerospace giants are suddenly developing reusable rockets, trying to catch up to SpaceX. And there's significantly increased investment pouring into battery technology and solar power across the board. He's become this central, often controversial, but undeniable figure, frequently compared to historical disruptors like, Steve Jobs or Henry Ford. He's definitely shifted perceptions about technology's potential to address huge global challenges, maybe the role of entrepreneurs in driving that, and the critical importance of long-term thinking in business, even if it seems crazy at first.
What an incredible journey we've taken through Elon Musk's story today, really, from a difficult childhood that seems to have forged his incredible resilience to disrupting multiple massive industries like aerospace and automotive, all driven by this singular, unified, almost unbelievably grand vision for humanity's sustainable and ultimately multiplanetary future.
It really is something. And this brings us, I think, to a compelling question for you, the listener, to maybe ponder. How might Musk's relentless drive for this multiplanetary future and his apparent willingness to push every boundary and challenge every assumption to try and achieve it, how might that reshape not only our technological landscape, but maybe even our very understanding of human purpose and survival in the cosmos?